I have wanted to make a video about all K-pop and other K-pop media news for that matter for a very long time. I've had a huge disdain for all K-pop for years. And back then, I didn't even know how bad they really were until I did research for this video. So in today's video, I will be going over the history of all K-pop, their CEO and his awful behavior and worldviews, as well as how the website operates today. Let's start by talking about the page and the man behind all K-pop. Allkpop was started back in October of 2007 and it is owned by Six Theory Media. I didn't know this until recently, but they also run a page called Tokyo Hive, which of course is a Japanese version of Allkpop. The main man behind this page is Johnny Noh, who is the CEO. He also used to edit and make articles on the site, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't do that anymore. Something tells me he's too busy retweeting about cryptocurrency and NFTs. Anyway, we will be getting more into him and his writings about Allkpop in a little bit. Allkpop is supposed to be a website that features Korean news and gossip, but calling it a news site would be offensive to actual news media and journalism. Unfortunately, it is very popular, being one of the most visited K-pop news websites. According to Wikipedia, they have over 7 million visitors a month, but I'm not sure how old or accurate these numbers are. Back when the site first launched, it was much more gossip, opinion pieces. Not that it isn't like that today, but it was even worse back then, somehow. Before I cover the issues with all K-pop today, let's take a trip down memory lane. Thanks to the wonders of the internet, a lot of all K-pop's old articles are still available via the Internet Archive or the Wayback Machine. And we are starting with a bang. One of the first examples I will be showing you is their coverage of the singer Ivy. Park Eun-hye, also known by the stage name Ivy, is a Korean singer and musical actress. She started in JYP Entertainment as a trainee before she had her own debut in 2005. She did have some controversy surrounding copyright allegations and such, and she was called a scandal maker, but we're not going to get into all of that today. I will leave a link to a video that my friend made that goes over Ivy as the quote scandal maker. Overall, she was a pretty successful singer, opening for Christina Aguilera in concert in Seoul in 2007. She also worked as a producer, working on lyrics for SM groups like Girls' Generation and SHINee. But the reason we are talking about her today is unfortunately because in late 2007, she was involved in a sex tape scandal. Her ex-boyfriend tried to blackmail Ivy with the video, trying to get $45,000 out of her. This ex-boyfriend claimed that he had made a video and had nude photos of Ivy and that he would release them to the public if the blackmail demands were not met. Thankfully, this man was later arrested and the video and photos never made it online. Some people tried to claim that these photos and videos never existed and this was all a publicity stunt, and those accusations supported the claim that she was being a quote scandal maker, even though this damaged her career severely. Some people tried to victim blame further, saying that she had been cheating, two-timing on her ex with another K-pop singer, but there is no confirmation on this from what I can tell. Now, I would hope that this situation is pretty cut and clear for most of you, but let's take a look at some of the statements that all K-pop's website made about the situation. Quote, singer Ivy is having a rough week because of blackmail threats from a man named Yu. Yu, 31, was arrested last week and is blackmailing K-pop star Ivy by saying he would reveal a video clip showing himself with a K-pop star, presumably a sex videotape between the two. Guys, stop searching rigorously for the video as it hasn't been released yet. Let's just hope it will. JK. We all know too well that in the celebrity world that isn't really the case. The lesson learned here is not to have sex with shady guys. Sure, you might have some fun for the first few nights, but it may come and hit you in the ass. No pun intended. End quote. In another article about the situation posted on November 14th of 2007, the same writer says, quote, the lovable Ivy, whose career is dropping faster than she does on men, had a mental breakdown due to her video scandal. The once mighty, cute, sexy pop star now looks like she's well on her way to join the ranks of pop star by day, porn star by night predecessors. Stay tuned for further developments, or rather, the evolution of Ivy, end quote. They continued to mock Ivy even though she was the victim in the situation. In an article from January of 2008, quote, rumors have been floating around that Ivy is going to return after her horrific sex scandal, not as a singer, but instead a porn star, scratched out. an actress, end quote. In their article, The Top 10 Ho-Ho-Hos of K-Pop 2007, one of the other writers for Allkpop writes about Ivy, quote, "Finally, the moment we've all been waiting for. Coming in at an honorable number 1 spot of our 2007 Ho list is Ivy. It has been a rough, just how she likes it, year for Ivy. She has been involved in a sex scandal where her ex-boyfriend threatened to release the sex videotape. To make matters worse, there are internet rumors swirling around that Ivy was two-timing on Risong. What a slut. At least hoes like Hyori keep things like this on the down low," end quote. Here are also some things they said about other women in the article. Quote, "In the spirit of the holiday season, The Ripper, me, along with some input from the staff, have come up with an exclusive AKB top 10 list of the biggest hoes of K-pop in 2007. Baek Ji-young had a few hit songs in the early 2000s, although she's most famous for her scandalous sex tape that ruined her brief career. But why such a low ranking at 10, you ask? Well, it's been many years since her sex tape scandal, and although she attempted a few comebacks, she's still old news. If you're still looking for a sex tape, don't bother, it's boring and a waste of time. Sort of like her career. Well, Boa isn't a hoe per se. She's actually a good girl, but just look at that picture. Good grief, close those legs, woman. Well, actually, what am I saying? Spread them wider. Hyori, aka Hori, aka Hori, you get the picture, has climbed all the way to number 2 on our list this year. Hyori is one of K-pop's biggest stars and also one of the biggest hoes in the business. From the way she dresses to her moves on stage, there's no doubt in our mind that she's a professional in hodom, end quote. I'm also just going to go through a few things they have said in random articles from this time when they started posting originally. I will leave the article name, the author, and so on the screen along with the quotes. Quote, "There was no reason given for the rejection of the fan photography, but there is reason enough to believe that Kim Tae-hee needs a quick, swift backhand to her chickle teeth to knock her off her princess pedestal and onto my lap," end quote. Quote, "I love schoolgirls, even though it's illegal. I'm kidding. But I really do dig the schoolgirl look. There's something about it that just makes me all giddy inside. I guess kind of like a little schoolgirl," end quote. Quote, "Son Dambi is a hottie. Berry-san chooses Son Dambi, and so does my twig and berries. I wish I was the invisible man in her bedroom closet as she undresses. Wait a minute, that's creepy. Well, whatever," end quote. Quote, "Sounds like the girls are heavy drinkers. I had a very similar experience though, you know, like get pissed drunk and wake up with my magic stick inside of Jessica's mouth while Tiffany cheers us on with her pom-poms. Okay, that was probably a drunk dream, but hey, it is realistic enough, and she doesn't remember a damn thing either," end quote. Quote, "Hyoyun, who's gotten more plastic work done than the entire group put together, stood on stage looking quite butch and manly. I always thought Hyoyun looked quite beastly," end quote. Quote, "Girls have been doing well in the kitchens, but now that this annoying concept known as feminism is starting to gain momentum, we may lose our dishwashers and our rice makers," end quote. Quote, "I find Taeyeon highly unattractive. She's the kryptonite to my boner. Now please replace her with something more aesthetically pleasing, and by something I mean 2 silicone-injected beauties," end quote. Quote, "Hell, I don't even care about Soo-young. She's always been ugly, but Yoona, what happened to her? I mean, normally I would have kicked Soo-young in the face just to get to Yoona, but now I think they both need to be kicked in the face, field goal style," end quote. Quote, "In her title track, Telepathy, Yoonha seduces a man in a sexy stewardess uniform. Unfortunately, the uniform is the only sexy thing about the situation. Anyway, I wouldn't mind being seduced by a Korean air stewardess, but if it's Yoonha, yes, please hook me up with a roofie and a vomit bag," end quote. Quote, "If I woke up next to her in the morning, I would have thought to myself, when did I pick up a cheap Thai hooker last night? It is amazing to see how much a little bit of makeup can transform someone," end quote. One of the more disgusting things they have done in their beginning years that many people don't know about today is that they leaked an idol's nude photos. On November 10th of 2013, Allkpop posted this article titled "Purported Pre-Debut Nude Photos of Ailees Leaked." They then included multiple photos of Ailees nude and posing for the camera. They did put black bars on the photos, but they were all watermarked with Allkpop's logo. But it's so much more messed up than that. I will be using this article by Soul Beats for a whole rundown of the situation, and I will leave a link in the description for the full article. Of course, people were upset by this violation of privacy. Matt Kim, a staff member of Allkpop, tweeted out following the release of the article defending themselves. Quote, "I like how people are blaming Allkpop for the leak, when all they did was break the story. Don't kill the messenger, folks. It was already leaked online through a sex site. All we did was break the story. It was going to spread regardless. We are a news site. Good or bad, it's our responsibility to bring the news to everyone. We can't make it personal," end quote. Johnny Noh, the CEO of Allkpop, also tweeted out, "It's our job to report on everything, good or bad. If we were to filter and blow rainbows up everyone's asses, no one would appreciate that. With that said, Allkpop was not the source of the leak. We can't take the credit. But don't be surprised if in the New Year's we blow some doors open," end quote. Now, I think it's a big red flag all around to say that they can't take the credit, like it's something they want to achieve in life. Also, what Johnny said in these tweets is just straight up a lie. The photos of Ailees were traced back to a thread posted anonymously back in June of 2013. Shortly after the photos were posted on Allkpop, Dispatch came out saying that someone had reached out to them claiming to have these photos. Dispatch stated that they had corresponded with Ailees' ex-boyfriend and that this ex had reached out to them in July of that year. The ex claimed to have nude photos of Ailees and wanted to sell them to Dispatch. I will read the transcript now. "What kind of photos are they? She is completely naked in them. She's not wearing anything, front, back, nothing. How did you get them?" "I got them from Ailees herself." "Ailees gave them to you directly? Why?" "I was her ex-boyfriend." "Did you receive the nude photos via Messenger?" "Yes." "And now you want to go public with them?" "That's the plan." "Selling pictures you personally received could get you into trouble. You shouldn't offer them to the media." "I see. You are different from other media outlets. I'll contract elsewhere." The point is that what you're doing is dangerous. It's not illegal. It is illegal. This is her personal life, so you could be sued. And any media outlet that does buy these photos from you is wrong. It's best if you don't do it. "Yes, I understand." YMC Entertainment, Ailees' management company at the time, made a statement where they alleged that these photos were a camera test shot when she had been offered to become a lingerie model. But that offer was not real and was actually a scam that targeted college students. Following that, Ailees had gone to her then boyfriend, that worked for Allkpop at the time, to speak about the situation. Ailees was then persuaded by her boyfriend to send the photos to him. YMC made the statement that they were seeking legal action against persons who circulate the photos. A few hours after YMC's statement, Six Theory, who is Allkpop's parent company, made their own statement. They wanted to clarify how they got the photos, as well as speak about the alleged involvement of Six Theory's vice president, Daniel Lee, in the leak scandal. They claimed that a Canadian tipster had emailed Six Theory in June offering to sell them the photos. Apparently, this tipster had a phone conversation with someone at Six Theory and stated, quote, they didn't have access to Sports Soul or Dispatch, but would be willing to contact them if Allkpop didn't break the story, end quote. The tipster also claimed to be the middleman for the original owner of the photos and also asked for $3,500 for a full set of photos. Allkpop had alleged that they were not interested and that the tipster said they would contact other media outlets. Following this, Allkpop claimed to have contacted YMC to relay the information they had gotten from the tipster, as well as say they would give them contact information for the tipster. Allkpop then claimed that YMC had discarded the matter. Allkpop also allegedly said to YMC that they would not be posting anything about the photos unless the photos were posted on the internet by a third party, claiming that it was their, quote, job and duty as a news site to write and post about the story. Then they claimed that on November 10th, they had gotten an email with a link of the photos and made the decision to post the story, claiming, quote, it is their policy to report the truth, which in my opinion is a load of baloney. Allkpop then also wanted to clarify that yes, the Six Theory VP Daniel Lee and Ailees did date in the past, but he did not post these photos. Of course, some people blamed Ailees for this, but most people were very supportive of her. Just a few days after the scandal broke, she attended the Melon Music Awards. There, she won an award, and you can just tell that she was struggling, but many people were there to cheer her on.
있어도 항상 저를 응원해주시고 믿어주시고 사랑해주시는 모든 분들과 그리고 저희 팬분들 너무 사랑하고 감사합니다. 열심히 하겠습니다.
But of course, this made a portion of the public and some of her fans turn on her. However, the truth about David, Ailees' ex, came out fast, and that he indeed was trying to sell the photos but still denies leaking the pics to all K-pop. To quote this article by K-pop stars, quote, on Wednesday, the Allkpop VP agreed to speak to the Seoul Broadcasting System program One Night of TV Entertainment in an attempt to clear the air, according to E! News. Lee reaffirmed Allkpop's official company statement that a Canadian citizen contacted the website's editorial staff back in June, attempting to sell them nude photos of Ailee. Allkpop Vice President of Content Daniel Lee admits that it is his voice in the phone call released by South Korean media outlet Dispatch, in which he attempted to sell nude photos of his ex-girlfriend, K-pop star Ailee. But the media mogul denies he leaked the pictures to his own publication. Quote, I really just want to see if it's possible to sell the pictures, and I asked innocently. I had no other intention, end quote. Some people try to say that YMC's explanation as to why these photos existed was a cover-up. However, according to the Korea Times, a report was filed with the police back in 2007 when Ailee lived in New Jersey. I will leave a link in the description for further info about this. But I, and I think most other people, are of the opinion that her ex was involved with the leak, even if he himself didn't post on Allkpop. So, Ailee's ex-boyfriend, who allegedly had the photos, tried to sell the photos after receiving the photos through an anonymous tipster, but he claims he did not leak or post the photos through Allkpop. Sure.
Sure, Jan.
Their old articles also include a lot of homophobia and fatphobia, and honestly, just any shitty thing you can say about another human being. A big target of Allkpop's fatphobia was Shindong from Super Junior. Now, do I like him personally? No, but I can also talk about him and why I don't like him without commenting on his weight. In an article written by Johnny, posted in August of 2008, he says, quote, Super Junior Shindong will release a diet video. Just kidding. If that was true, Shindong would no longer be Super Junior, but a Super Miracle. Anyway, the latest report from Fatland states that Shindong has lost 5 kilos, or 11 pounds. The obese teen pop idol said the reason why he was able to lose so much weight was because of the show he's currently appearing on, Mnet Dance Yonghyun Dong Jae. I admit 5 kilos is a good amount of lost weight, but when there's another 100 kilos of excess fat laying around, it doesn't make much of a difference. Needless to say, I'm sure Shindong was proud of his 5 kilogram loss. I guess he's finally under the threshold of the weight scale now. No longer does it read to be continued, end quote. In another article from November of that same year, Allkpop said this about him, quote, Super fatty of Super Junior Shindong has finally reached his goal in losing 35 pounds, end quote. Later in this article, they go on to say, quote, on top of still being fat, he proved that he is still a super pig, end quote. They end the article with, quote, but still, losing 35 pounds is a great deal. I guess it just doesn't really show when you weigh 400 pounds. So props to you anyways, Shindong, end quote. I think Johnny clearly just has a huge disdain for Super Junior, as well as other groups like Big Bang. And we will get to that in a little bit, trust me. There is also a lot of homophobia in Johnny's articles, but also just in Allkpop's articles in general. In this article from June of 2008 that is titled, quote, Lee Tuck is straight up gangsta, well, maybe not straight, Johnny goes on to say, quote, for the first time in his life, Lee Tuck said all of this with his head held high and mighty, as if he was a man. But the fact of the matter is, even gangsters don't beat women, end quote. Here are some other examples of the homophobic comments made by writers from Allkpop. Quote, aside from the enviable creamy skin, Heejul's backside is practically a gay porn gone bad, end quote. Quote, besides, it's not the priority to put Super Junior news out there because frankly, Super Junior is not really super, unless it comes to kissing boys, end quote. Quote, we already know that Big Bang's G-Dragon loves dressing like a girl, end quote. Quote, From bragging about having sex with Hyori, which ended up live on radio, quickly covered up by his publicist, to taking it up the hole from Park Jin-young. Okay, I made up the latter part, maybe. End quote. Quote, SHINee, the new 5-male borderline female group from SM Entertainment, debuted on M Countdown. SHINee seems to be a direct descendant of TVXQ, but with a double scoop of and a cherry on top. Although their song is catchy, I die a little inside when I watch fangirls cheering on these gender benders. What has our world come to? End quote. Quote, Suju Kim Hee-chul is serious about being a girl. SM Entertainment, who has recently decided to enter the musical business, held a celebration to kick off their new venture in which Super Junior member Kim Hee-chul attended, looking fruity as ever. End quote. Quote, it looks like this boy band has accepted that they are indeed gay, rather than gradually showing their inner feelings like other boy bands, cough, Big Bang, cough. End quote. In an article called Taemin Shows What He Can Do With His Fingers, one of the writers of Allkpop says, quote, it's hard to believe that the smiling angel and the youngest member of SHINee not only can power dance his way into Nuna's panties, hearts, but also piano his way into them. Taemin showed that not only does he have superb control of his body, but also great control of his nimble fingers as well. He could probably now introduce himself as, hello, I'm SHINee's perfect jailbait, Taemin, end quote. Taemin was 15 at the time of this article being posted. Johnny, like is probably clear by now, also obsessed about talking about SNSD, or Girls' Generation. This is what he said about the girls, one of them being underage member Yuna. Quote, okay, with all due seriousness though, Yuna should act her way onto my bed, along with Yuri, Jessica, and Tiffany. I promise I'll create another Girls' Generation in one night, end quote. They also apparently had a very inappropriate photo of Hyuna when she was still a minor as their backdrop on Allkpop for a while, but so far I have not found any photos of that, so take that with a grain of salt. Along with constantly shitposting about groups like Super Junior, Girls' Generation, and SHINee, Johnny and all K-pop writers have a huge hate boner for Big Bang. And therefore, that issue gets this whole entire section in this video because it is really just endless. But I'm just gonna give some examples because I have too much to cover in this godforsaken video. In an article talking about T.O.P having a role in another singer's music video, Johnny says, quote, unlike some of the other Big Bang members, T.O.P seems to actually like women. I'm sure fangirls will have their panties in a bunch now, but be thankful that your idol is indeed a man and not a transgender-loving queer, end quote. We of course get the classic racist comments about Asians from him as well in an article about Daesung and his family. Quote, many of us have wondered who blessed Big Bang's Daesung with such large, beautiful, scratched out, floss eyes. Hell, we all wondered how he even got into an idol group, or why girls find him attractive. Perhaps if all three eyes were combined, we just may be able to see a pupil, end quote. In another article, he manages to somehow speak ill of Big Bang and 2NE1. Quote, although they are the female version of Big Bang, hopefully they won't lack originality or come out of any closets or bars like their male counterparts. I mean, older sisters, end quote. We can also add transphobia to the list of shit Johnny says. Quote, popular boy band Big Bang is under extreme amount of scrutiny due to sick personal fetishes and extracurricular activities off stage. Photos of Big Bang member Seungri attending a transgender strip show at a wine bar owned and operated by G-Dragon's supposed girlfriend have been popping up all over the internet. I always knew there was something wrong with this group of perverts, and finally things are falling into place. Going to a strip show or club, fine, that's normal manly behavior, but going to a transgender strip show? That's a little sick for my tastes. But as their name suggests, I'm sure Seungri likes to Big Bang the he-she's, end quote. He then speaks more about Seungri being a, quote, pervert in this article. quote, Seungri's road to homosexuality. Seungri visits a transgender bar, searches his soul and discovers himself. Seungri states that he loves TVXQ, especially Shihan Junsu. Seungri states that he admires Junsu and hopes to be able to share a meal with him. Seungri states that he is a member of Junsu's fan club. Seungri states that he's purchased a TVXQ CD. He feels very touched when he listens to it. Junsu states that he met Big Bang. Seungri was overjoyed, wouldn't let go of Junsu's hand, and said he really admires him, end quote. While he was making these articles, Seungri was still underage. So instead of commenting on the fact that an underage idol is going to bars, he decides to focus on being a transphobe. But we all know by now that Johnny doesn't care about such pesky things as age of consent and not talking sexually about minors. Talking about Taeyang in another article, a longtime writer on Allkpop says, quote, Next, Taeyang should pick up a hair clipper and shave those pubes off his head. Finally, he should do us all a favor and jump in front of a bus. Or if he's feeling really generous, take the rest of Big Bang with him, end quote. The CEO of Allkpop has, of course, other great qualities, like ableism. In this article, he says, quote, If anyone can unleash a super cosmetic amount of through their mouth, it's definitely Hyunyoung. Our favorite ball of once again opened her mouth and fired a round of stupid, end quote. Here's another example, quote, Ex-Finkel member Joohyun lost the ball of fat, but keeps the Well, one thing's for sure, those utility bills are probably from flushing after her finger down the throat yoga sessions, end quote. And another, quote, Super Junior member Lee Tuck never fails to spew out of those pole-hugging lips, end quote. He also makes a rape joke, quote, Japanese pretty boy Yamashita Tomohisa of boy band New S was nearly raped by Korean fans at Kimbo Airport on the 5th. Yamashita Tomohisa was stormed by crazy little Korean fangirls who grabbed and groped at the star, tearing away his clothes, end quote. If you thought we were done with transphobia in the Big Bang portion of the video, you thought wrong. Talking about Andy from Shinhwa, quote, He shouldn't worry too much. The only time a woman approaches him is in the red light district of Korea, and that's usually chicks with hidden sticks, end quote. Now let's get to stuff that Allkpop has done besides slurs, bad journalism, and hate speech towards basically anything and anyone. In 2010, Allkpop leaked Epic High's album online. Tableau, one of the group's members, pops off on Allkpop on Twitter, quote, What the fuck is up with Allkpop? In one day they posted up a leak music video of Run, and now they have illegal streaming of all our songs? Fuck you, Allkpop, for being so senseless. I think I've been more than generous to Allkpop with all the interviews and videos. I can't believe this, end quote. After these tweets by him, they ended up taking the article down. Tableau then says, quote, Taking the page down doesn't make the selfish intention of the act go away. I'm usually an understanding person, but when a money-making site exploits something many people poured their hearts into, I just can't sit and nod it away. Allkpop, I don't want an apology. I want you to grow a conscience, end quote. He then ends his calling out of Allkpop by calling them rats. Amen to that. I would assume that up until now, I have proven a point. That I can understand that the articles from 15 plus years ago maybe aren't the best way of proving to you how shitty Allkpop is. I will now be giving more recent examples of the shit that Allkpop has pulled, but before that, I want to talk a little bit more about Allkpop as a news website for a moment. In their current about section, Allkpop claims to, quote, work around the clock to be the first to deliver minute-to-minute breaking news, gossip, and the most exclusive coverage of the hottest K-pop stars, end quote. So yes, they do talk about gossip, but they try to frame themselves as a serious news outlet. The issues with this is that anyone can submit an article on Allkpop. That causes bias. unasked opinions, and overall just very unprofessional journalism. An example I can name from my own experience is when I was doing research for my Rania and Black Swan video, I kept coming across a person writing articles on Allkpop that were clearly biased against the group and were spreading false and unnecessary rumors. However, the blame is still on Allkpop because all the articles need to be approved by the moderators. I even checked myself by making an account. So they don't seemingly care when the articles frame people in a bad light. When I was doing this check myself, I also read over the rules for posting on their site, and some of the rules were very interesting. Number 1, no nudity or lewd content. That is rich coming from them. Number 2, no advertisements. Posts must be newsworthy or have entertainment value. Again, rich coming from them. Also very subjective. Rule number 4 and 6 kind of don't work together. Rule number 4, look for original source of content. But then rule number 6 says, don't copy and paste articles. That is copyright infringement. Summarize the article in your own words. But I'm sorry, how is rewording another article original source of content? Also, rule number 7, over-the-top articles filled with superlatives will not be published. Again, rich coming from them. Now, I know there's articles made by AKP staff or Allkpop staff, but those aren't any better. Anyway, let's take a look at some more recent examples. And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. In an article about a Lovelyz music video teaser, the author just decided to insert their own opinion into the article. Quote, although it's a bit disappointing that their comeback seems completely similar to their not so interesting debut concept, end quote. In May of 2016, in an article that was reviewing Tiffany's I Just Wanna Dance album, the author of the article said, quote, I have to take a moment and talk about the awkward album cover. The one I have shows Tiffany on a bed in a shift, looking lost and scared. That says kidnapped teen sex slave more than a pop idol, and it makes me extremely uncomfortable, end quote. This is the photo in question. And again, I would just like to remind you that all articles have to be approved before they're posted. In March of 2007, in an article about album sales of G-Friend's new album, the author posted a photo of the music video. However, you can see that the author has disliked the music video. They were of course called out for this in the comments, and they claim to have misclicked, which I put some doubt onto. But again, the article was approved by Allkpop. In August of 2007, they released an article called A Video of 17 SHINee Saying I Love You to His Alleged Girlfriend Leaks Online. This video was clearly a private video, and he was sitting on a bed without a shirt on. When this video was posted, Dino is newly 18 years old, and we don't know when this video was taken. Mind you, you are not an illegal adult in Korea until you're 19. I have been a hater of Allkpop since day one. Here's an example. Also in August of 2017, they made an article insinuating that 101's Kim Jae-hwan said a racial slur when he seemed to be making a pun in Korean. The article seems to be gone, but there's of course screenshots and the handy-dandy Wayback Machine. Their article includes wonderful journalism, aka a anonymous tip from a Allkpop reader that says, quote, the video editors covered it up by adding slightly different subtitles from what was actually said. Problem is that the subtitles make no sense that way, which makes the cover-up so much more obvious, end quote. There are some disagreements on the situation if the pun was a joke on AAVE or hip-hop artists. However, he did not say the N-word. I will leave a Reddit thread that covers this in more depth in the description box. There are so many examples of them using clickbait articles, and in general, just bad faith writing. I will leave a thread with more examples of bad articles down in the description. In 2020, Allkpop stole ATEEZ Hongjoon's design and made their own clothing with his design, selling it on their merch store. Fans, of course, called them out on that. They started removing reviews and even blocking some people, but they did eventually remove it from the shop, but said nothing. In 2023, they failed to include a lot of context in an article about DKC's Kyungyoon and in the title of the article. In an article from April, they say in the title, quote, DKC's Kyungyoon takes a hiatus due to anxiety and sociophobia following JMS controversy. For some context that they did not give in the article, just a quick click link to another article, Kyungyoon has spoken about his involvement in the JMS cult. To quote him directly, quote, my parents were part of JMS for more than 20 years and I was born into it. I think I was brainwashed little by little at JMS. Although it's late, I am leaving the cult, end quote.
결국은 메시아다. 정명석이 이 시대에 온 메시아다.
한 200에서 250개 교회까지는 올라간 것 같고
황령은 자신을 비롯한 수많은 여성 신도들이 총재 정치로부터 상습적으로 성폭행을 당했다고 주장했습니다.
박순자가 신이었나요?
뭐 나 안 따르면은 뭐 니들 다 죽는다. 그거지 뭐.
두 명이 같은 장소에서 죽었다.
완전 공포였죠.
학교 2학년이 처음 피해를 입었던 날이에요. 미성년자가 기다리고 있습니다.
대한민국의 전직 검찰총장이 정명석을 만나서 JMS 교단의 본부인 월명동에서 정명석과 아주 반갑게 활짝 웃으면서 찍은 사진을 제가 확보를 하게 됐습니다.
이 집단의 규모가 어느 정도 된다고 생각을 하세요?
과거에는 그 교단의 공식적인 입장이 국내와 해외를 합쳐서 신도가 15만 명이라고 했었는데
However, news were framing him as a serious member of the cult, insinuating that he was trying to indoctrinate others into it while promoting his idol. He was a victim, not some vicious cult member. After this, he ended up leaving the group and left the spotlight, quietly enlisting in the military. But the title makes it sound like some wild controversy that he caused. Besides saying that he was halting activities following the JMS controversy, they did not mention anything further in this article. Someone who only read the title of the article might also be misled on Kyungyoon's involvement in the cult. Quoting this user on Twitter, quote, this is not just regular, idol has anxiety and will be taking a break for a while. This boy's life is literally hanging on by threads because people are actively harassing and threatening him for being a cult victim since birth. Not only did he find out his entire life from the second he was born was spent in a lie, where he was forced, brainwashed, mentally abused, and taken advantage of, to have faith in someone who had turned out to be a disgusting rapist through a Netflix documentary, but was witch hunted and forced to open up and come out to the entire country and apologize while the other victims have their faces blurred and voices edited during their interviews, while he didn't even get that option. Now, not only is his life in danger because of his own mental state, but also because people, whether it's the cult or general public, are targeting him. He also has to carry the burden of making his group, members, and company, which he said are his closest people, known and boycotted for his scandal, while so-called fans of the group are forcing shows to cancel the group's performance so they can blame it on him and get him kicked out. The company is also threatened with boycott and had property damage because of them choosing to protect and support him, end quote. I will leave a link down below for the full thread from this person. I also found multiple people sharing their own personal experiences with Allkpop on Twitter, and I wanted to share a few. Melody Amuse said, quote, this is a personal request, but please do not share/send my translations to Allkpop. Back in the early years of when I was translating for TVXQ, they stole my work and published them without credit multiple times. I wish to have nothing to do with them, end quote. Rachel said, quote, don't have any screenshots because this was so long ago, but they used to stealth/hack their users and impersonate and harass them. I was 15 when they impersonated me and posted my private info. They also harassed some of my friends with phone calls, end quote. Robot Punyeta said, quote, I was a minor working for the site for the first 2 years of its birth. They paid no one at all, forced us to write shitty articles for clickbait, berated us if it wasn't to their liking, gave us nothing in return. They're hella racist, homophobic, and weird about women, end quote. There are endless examples of Allkpop making errors knowingly or unknowingly in the reporting, sharing personal information on idols, making clickbait titles and false headlines, framing people in a bad light. And the list goes on and on. Now, if you're not convinced that Allkpop is a piece of trash news media outlet, I don't know what to tell you. You can try to argue that Allkpop is a site where anyone can submit an article, so of course they will be biased. but they need to be approved by all K-pop staff, which also post shitty articles themselves. Also, I want to point out that they're basically getting a lot of free work from random people on the internet. You can try to argue that the old articles are old, a work of its time, but what if I told you that the man behind all K-pop is the same man that he was in 2007 and should be reason enough for you not to support the K-pop website any longer because that directly funnels money into his pockets. On January 22nd of 2025, the All K-pop Twitter account tweeted out, quote, "We are so back at real Donald Trump at Elon Musk. Let's fucking go. MAGA." End quote. They also retweeted a tweet from Alex Jones, and they also retweeted a quote tweet from Johnny Noh, the owner and CEO of All K-pop, that said, quote, "How disgusting are libs?" End quote. Of course, they ended up deleting all of this. I can't seem to find his Twitter anymore, but I remember scrolling through it multiple times and it was full of MAGA, right-wing bullshit, cryptocurrency, and NFTs. Okay, the reason why I couldn't find his Twitter is because he changed his Twitter handle. So yeah, and as you can see, he is still going on about the same kind of shit that he was saying like almost 20 years ago. Like, what is this? For example, tweet from Andrew Tate, quote, "Lock up in mental asylums. There, I said it because no one else will," end quote. Great. And he retweets a lot of cryptocurrency. He retweets this, quote, "Be honest, what exactly in this photo is supposed to be offensive," end quote. And it's talking about the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad. He also loves to retweet from this account. There are multiple retweets from this account on his Twitter. Here's a tweet that he retweeted from Laura Loomer that says, quote, "RIP South Korea. The communists have taken over Korea and won the presidential election today. This is terrible," end quote. He also loves Elon Musk, and I'm not surprised at all. He also frequently retweets and interacts with Ollie London. Overall, there are so many examples of him retweeting stuff that is just highly questionable, and it just tells me that this man has not changed at all since his early days as a writer for All K-pop. I just find it hilarious that he changed his @ on Twitter, so I don't know why he did that. I don't know if it was because he wanted to avoid the connection, so people would start tagging him or whatever, but yeah, very interesting. This is just absolute insanity. This account is like, if I didn't know any better, I would have thought this was like a troll, a fake account of like a crazy right-winger. But this is just our good old Johnny Noh, founder of All K-pop, investor and developer. So yeah. His Instagram is still up, and there he follows people like Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump and posts a lot about his obsession with cars. He's a really weird man, and I get the ick immediately when I looked at his page. The man behind All K-pop, and to some extent the staff, are not good people. All K-pop is a trash website. And when there are other websites with so much better quality content, there is no excuse to keep reading and supporting them. And honestly, I wouldn't even go so far to call them a news website because that is offensive to real journalists out there. If you need alternative websites, I would recommend Soompi, Kpop Wise, and I've also heard that The Soul Story is good. You can also get your news from good, reliable translators from different fandoms. Keep in mind, this video just touches the tip of the iceberg and the examples of all K-pop's awful work ethic, or the lack thereof. I will leave links for more examples in the description for you all to read if anyone is interested. That is gonna be it for this video. I could keep going as to why I despise all K-pop, and I have for years, but I think you guys should have gotten the point by now. I will make sure to list any sources that I didn't credit in the video directly, so check out the description box if you're interested in any of that. Please don't support all K-pop's nonsense and rely on proper and ethical journalism. That is gonna be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye bye.